right, good night. This is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharb. I am here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions. So tonight I'm going to come with a great topic to talk about, and it's fiancé visa or the marriage-based spouse immigrant visa. Which one should you go with? That's a hot question that I get, and so I want to give you some pros and cons about each one, and then you can determine whether you should really seek further legal advice about which one it will work for you, because it really comes down to a personal preference and your personal circumstances. So, but keep in mind that I am here to answer your immigration questions. So put your questions in the comments while I'm here, because the answers to your questions give me the opportunity to give you information that you care about. Hi there, Natasha. So the fiancé visa. So first of all, the fiancé visa is for U.S. citizens to apply for their fiancé to come to the United States, and it allows the fiancé to come on a 90-day visa, and then they can get married in the United States. They have 90 days to get married and then do adjustment of status, right? Now, of course, because it's only for U.S. citizens, you know that if you are a U.S. permanent resident, then your only option would be to get married to your spouse who lives in the foreign country, and then apply for their immigrant visa to come to become permanent residents. But U.S. citizens have the choice of either pursuing a fiancé visa or pursuing the getting married in the country of their fiancé, and then applying for the immigrant visa for them to come. Once they land in the United States, they become permanent residents. So I usually say the fiancé visa, it comes down to personal preferences. And the reason is, with the fiancé visa, is it that you don't want to jump the gun, you don't want to just get married, you want to plan a big wedding, if you're the U.S. citizen, you want to invite your friends and family, you want to share the occasion in the United States, you may want to get to know each other a little bit more as fiancés, live together as fiancés before actually getting married. If you have these types of preferences, then the fiancé visa may very well be for you. However, for example, if you've been together for a long time, you really just want to be with your spouse, and you want to get straight to getting your spouse their permanent resident, then maybe getting married and getting the spouse immigrant visa would be the best option. Now, here are the pros of the fiancé visa is that it allows you to take your time. It allows you to stay together in the United States while you plan your wedding. It also allows you to, not have to go to the country to get married, but instead do it in the United States. Now, the con of the fiancé visa is one that is taking as long as the marriage-based immigrant visa right now. So that's the con. So it is not. Before, it was a very quick visa. It was you would get it in 90 days. Pre-COVID, it was taking about 9 months, but now it's taking up to a year and a half. And guess what? The spouse immigrant visas are taking just about the same, 18 to 24 months. So that's why I say it really comes down to you and your fiance's personal preference, and it usually comes down to, you want to maybe spend more time with your fiance, being engaged before actually getting married, or rushing into marriage. You want to be engaged first and have a little more time. Now, remember though that when you do have to qualify for the fiancé visa, you have to be a U.S. citizen. You have to show that you do have the intention to get married within 90 days of your fiance arriving in the United States. You have to show those, right, to qualify. And you also have to show that you have met in person within the most recent 2 years before you apply. There are some exceptions if you can show exceptional hardships for not seeing each other in person, or that there are religious or cultural requirements that prohibit you from meeting your fiance in person. And so there are waivers if you have not met in person, but it has to fit within those specific criteria to get the waiver. So once you know that you've met those requirements, then and also your fiance can bring their children along. So not only does your fiance get to come, but the children can go along with your fiance as long as the children are under 21 and unmarried. So that's a plus. So you can also bring along your stepchildren to be if you're the US citizen. Now here, so those are the pros and the cons of the fiancé visa. Now here are the pros and the cons of and here's another con of the fiancé visa. With the fiancé visa, it is a demanding process, right? It's not like applying for the visitor's visa, where you just go to the embassy one day, you submit your application within a few weeks, you get your visa interview, you go and you get an answer, and you can fly right away to the United States. The fiancé visa requires you to meet those requirements I just listed, that you're a U.S. citizen petitioning for your fiancé, that you've met in person within the most recent 2 years, or that you fit within an exception or qualify for an exemption, and that you have you can show that this is a real bona fide relationship, engagement, and you do intend to get married, right? And so it requires filing a petition, and then along with the evidence, not just completing a form, but there is evidence that will be required, going through the National Visa Center, doing the medical exam, doing an affidavit of support, and then attending the interview. All of that takes about a year and a half. Then once your fiance gets here, they'll have 90 days to get married, and then within those 90 days, you would have to apply for the green card. So the tedious process would then start all over again. And then you're looking at, right now, you could be looking at another 18 months to 24 months for you to get now your fiance turned spouse their green card. So it's multiple different moving parts and stages in the fiance visa process, fiance visa to permanent resident process. Now with the spouse visa, it is different. It's a little more convenient, and it leads to a direct path to permanent residence. So what happens here is that you would, as the U.S. citizen or resident, because remember, residents qualify for this. So the resident can then apply for their spouse through the petition process. They'd get a decision. Decisions are taking a little over a year. So both the fiancé visa and the green card, the permanent residence immigrant visa applications, are taking around the same time. Is taking 18 months to 24 months for the spouse immigrant visa. So there are really no pros or cons, or one is not, either one is, they're about the same on the same timeline. So one is not better than the other in regards to the timeline. That's why I said it comes down to personal preference. Now, once you apply for the petition, it gets approved, it goes through to the embassy. You still would have to do the medical, still would have to do the work with the NVC, do the get the police certificate, and go through with the interview. But once your spouse gets the immigrant visa, usually at the interview at the embassy, they'll be told whether they're approved, or not. Hopefully they're approved and they get the immigrant visa about 2 to 3 weeks later in their passport. They would travel to the United States, and once they get to the airport and they're processed, guess what? They become permanent residents. And so it's not a multi-tiered or multi-stage process like the fiancé visa. So with a fiancé visa, you have to do that tedious fiancé visa process, then go through the spouse immigrant visa process. But with the spouse immigrant visa process, the spouse goes first the petition, then they go to the embassy, get the visa, and they travel to the US. And right there, once they walk out on the other side of the airport, they are permanent resident. So, it comes down to what would work for you. And that is where I encourage you to get a consultation, because it's, additional legal advice that I'm going to provide is going to really depend on other circumstances, other situations that are going on for you that also affect your decision as to whether you need to choose the fiancé visa or just to apply for the spouse visa. And remember, you'd have to get married first, of course, to get the spouse visa. So that's it for me. I just wanted to talk about the pros and the cons of each process, and I touched on that within a short period of time, but I hope I gave you some good information. And I just want to see your questions as well. So while I wait for questions to come in, and your questions don't have to be related to the particular topic that I was talking about, but what I want to say is go to the link in my bio. Go and if you go to the website, there's a phone number, there's a contact form, and there's an online chat. All three lead to the scheduling coordinator. You can schedule and get on my calendar so we can talk about this or talk about any other immigration issue that you may be having right now. If I would like to review my spouse documents to see if you qualify to petition for me, would you do that during a consultation? Certified blessed. I don't review documents in the consultation. What I do is I advise, but I don't. The only time I do document review is when I'm representing my clients and I'm preparing those, because to provide a service like that means I'm spending hours reviewing your documents, reviewing everything. I really wouldn't be doing it justice reviewing documents in a consultation, because I can tell you this, I wouldn't be giving you, while I could give you tidbits of information, I wouldn't be doing you justice, because I couldn't possibly tell you whether everything was correct in your documents. But I do provide legal advice about whether you qualify, and then it's really up to you to determine whether you want to move forward with me. But in the consultation, I do get in depth, in detail about whether you qualify, what the requirements are, how to approach your situation, and how I can help you to achieve your goals as well. If I'm adjusting my status in the US, I'm married to a LPR, can my kids follow to join once I'm approved? So your kids should be included in the application as long as they are under 21 and unmarried. So keep those questions coming. These are all great questions so far, and that's exactly why I'm here. I'm here to answer your U.S. immigration related questions. And as I said before, go ahead and you can always schedule a consultation to get personal legal advice. All right, so I don't see any more questions coming in. So I hope the information that I gave you, certified blessed, you're welcome. And I hope I get to speak with you more about your situation and to advise as to your qualifications, your spouse's qualifications, because that's important to know as well. And if you do have a concern about that, schedule that consultation and let's get started. Let's talk about it. All right, so thanks so much for joining in. I am going to be back tomorrow at 9:30, around 9:30 p.m. Eastern time, to talk to you about a topic I think is important and also to answer your U.S. immigration related questions. Okay, so I have one more question here. If I'm married to a recent resident status person, will I qualify for a green card? Now, if you're married, if you're the spouse of a green card holder, you would qualify for permanent residence. But the process is going to depend on what your circumstances are. It's grade 88. So if you're here, you're married to a permanent resident and you're out of status, you wouldn't qualify for adjustment of status unless you're applying for VAWA. But it doesn't sound like you'd be applying for VAWA. It sounds like you're applying through your spouse. So VAWA is usually if a resident spouse was mistreating you. Then you could qualify for adjustment of status. But in the case that your spouse is applying for you, then you would not qualify for adjustment of status. That's a process of applying in the United States. There is a waiver process available. Or you'd have to wait on your resident spouse to become a U.S. citizen to adjust status. So Miss Grade 88, it's complex. I urge you to schedule a consultation and let's talk about your particular circumstances so I can explain in more personal terms and more specific terms what you need to do. Because remember, the information that I'm giving you is general information. It's not personal legal advice. And there's no way I can give you personal legal advice until we sit down in a confidential consultation and talk about what's going on in your case and where I can ask more targeted questions. If I'm married in a different country, will affect my status here. So Chef Mastermind, it depends. So if you are married here, I don't know what, it really depends on what, because I don't know what status do you have here. Did you get married and is your spouse applying for you? So that is, I'm going to need to do a consultation with you to determine how the marriage in a different country could affect your status. Was your marriage in a different country considered legal? If it wasn't, then that could be a problem. So let's talk about what's going on in your case and then determine what's going on there. Thug Zero, thanks for saying hi. So thanks again, everyone. So please, if my EAD status says card is being produced, when do I get the card? So I've seen about a week and a half to about 2 weeks to get the card. But keep in mind that it's coming through snail mail. And, it really comes down to when it actually gets to the mailroom and gets sent out by the USCIS. You can always BJ Pumpkin call and ask them, has it been mailed or what's going on with it? You can ask them how long should you expect to see that if it's taking a long time to get there. Chef Mastermind, you're welcome. So I appreciate your questions. Thanks again for your questions. I will be back tomorrow at 9:30. I came on a little early tonight just because I'm in a different setting. But tomorrow it's going to be a regular night, so around 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. So get ready for tomorrow. Get your questions ready. I want to see them in the comments tomorrow. And as I said before, if you need personal legal advice about any immigration issue that you're going through, go ahead, go to the link in my bio, go to the website. You can fill out a contact form, call the number. There's a scheduling coordinator. It's available up until 11 p.m. Or you can do the online chat if that's more convenient for you. Get on my calendar so we can talk. I can confirm whether you qualify for an immigration benefit or relief, and then get started on your case. Have a good night, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow, or I'll speak with you in a consultation. Bye.